Today is Wednesday with Wisdoms. I'm going to be talking about why your product is not your business. So I'm going to explain more about this, but first of all, I'm Janice B Gordon. I help businesses to grow. I do that through helping them to build their relationships with their customers and their systems and processes that they have within their organisations. And their people. I talked a lot about people last week in a customer-centric organisation and what you need to do. And so I am going to continue on that theme on customer centricity and talk about the product. So that's the other key area, products in your company, how you develop them, how you keep them relevant in your organisation. And so I'm going to launch straight into that. And my real kind of ideas around that is about making sure that your customers are really core to the product development within your company. I'm afraid my camera's doing this again. It kind of seems to be focusing in and out, so I hope it's not too distracting for you, but I'll continue because we are live. Make sure you send your comments and send some love and share what I'm going to be talking about today, because I really do love to get your feedback to make sure that the live trainings that I do is really relevant to you and your business. So have you thought about what business you're in? Have you really thought about that? Are you in a product-centric business, or are you in a customer-centric business? And how was your product actually developed? Was it developed? It may have been developed with your customers in mind, but did your customers actually help you develop it? These are the questions that I really want you to ask yourself. But when I wrote my book, Business Evolution, Creating Growth in a Rapidly Changing World, I discovered and talked about the essential 4 Ps. The second P is about purpose, and this really asks what business you're in. What is the focus of your business? What are the things that you spend the most attention on in your business? Is it your products, or is it your customers? And this is what I want to really delve deeper into today. And so when we're talking about products, last week I was taught to you about how many products and services fail simply because they didn't develop them with the customer at the core to that. So we really don't want to make that mistake, because it's really expensive. When we're looking at, business models now, most small, medium, even large companies traditionally have been developed with a product-centric business model. And so you may have that as your legacy and be looking to actually shift that change, because I'm going to give you examples of lots of companies that didn't shift fast enough. So make sure you're not one of them. A customer-centric organisation really does focus on the product at its core rather than the customer. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to be aware of what side that you're on and what are the pros and cons of all of that. And there's, there may be key reasons why you are one or the other. And so, it starts with the product and the service, and they really leverage all of the internal capabilities within the business to create the best product and service for their customer. But it really does start with that at the core. It then attracts the customers that have a need for their product. So the product is at the core, and then attracting the customers that have the need, and really expanding that, find out what other customers also have a need for this product, and really engage the sales and marketing here. So that's the real focus of a product centric business model, organisation and business. Customers are very much secondary to the product, which is primary, and it really leverages the internal capabilities and technologies. Many of the poor customer experience really does come about because of this internal focus, this internal this internal silo product focus rather than customer focus. So that's one of the things you really need to be aware of. But it's also, the other downside is that it's been very a short-sighted vision of the market, really, because they're led by the product. And this really does hamstring, even blindsides many companies into the market changes that are happening and that will affect them. And they're often on the back foot of these changes, rather than customers that always lead the way and are very demanding, and the customers are on the front foot. So you really need to hang on to their coattails and stay very close to your customers if you are a product-centric organisation. The benefit of a customer-centric organisation is that they have the customer within the core of the business. They're not hanging on to the coattails. You know, the financial objective of a product-centric organisation is that it really does compete based on their product for market share, in a way that it focuses on optimizing and the value from each of its products, opposed to optimizing the value from each of its customers or customer segments. And that's really the kind of key difference, and how the finances are organized within the business. So I really want you to start thinking about how your business is structured, and because you might not be aware that it is a product focused business, and you know, this may be something that you, if you're not aware of it, you can't change it. And that's really what I'm here to do. That's why I ask you these types of questions. Which one are you? What business are you in? Are you in a product focused business, or are you in a customer centric business? So really think about this. Do you remember the fate of Kodak? Kodak defined itself as a photo processing business, and this is the thing that really did hamstring them, because they were thinking very much as a product centric business, and this has really impeded them to change. You know, there was a real shift towards digital, and because Kodak had invested so much, they had a real legacy on photo processing, that they, you know, kind of got locked into this, and they resisted the change. And so they were very much embedded into their product of a photo processing product. The case of Nokia is very similar. Look at Blockbuster as well, and Xerox organisation. All of these organisations had similar traits. They were very much product-centric or business models, and they were very much lagging behind market changes. So they were very distant from their end user and their customers, and they resisted change, because of the legacy. They've invested so much in the legacy of all of their manufacturing and systems and processes. You know, let's be honest, change is difficult, and especially something like this. But these companies are no longer existing in the way that they did before, if they have managed to survive. But most of them, like Blockbuster, just doesn't exist at all. So there are real dangers with being product centric as an organisation. Customer centric companies start with the individual customer. Their aims is to meet their individual customers' need. They group those customers into segments that have similar needs, and they make sure that they continue to innovate around those segments, around those customers. Amazon is a great example of this. They started by selling books to their Pacific customers, and then through their relationship with their customers, then they developed more products for the very same customers, you know, looking at the Kindle and the Fire. And they've gone on to continue to innovate their product range around their customers, that they're actually innovating and whole sectors, not just, you know, product lines, but whole sectors, whole industries, and moving into other people competing and non-competing industries, because they really do understand their customers, and their customers have a variety of needs. They continue to innovate around their customers' needs. Other examples is Zappos, Southwest Airlines, and Virgin as well. These are all customer-centric organizations, businesses, companies, mindset, thinking. All of these things are really important. So a product-centric business, it starts with the product, the internal focus of their expertise and their competencies, and then it moves into marketing and sales, finding more people that have a need for the product, and then last is their customer and the end user. And so it's very much a linear process for that type of business model. When you're looking at a customer-centric business model, it's more of a circular flow, and it starts with the customer at the core or at the top of that circular flow. So it's really trying to understand the needs, the wants and needs of the end user, the customer, and constantly asking for feedback and customer input at every aspect of their business. And then it moves into the sales and marketing side, and that's where they collect a lot of it. It's not the only place, but it's where they collect a lot of that data and look into how they can better communicate with the end user. The sales and marketing then go out to the market and looks for more data to justify, you know, the modifications that they might make, or the new product development. So they're constantly going out into the market to survey and get more data, and all of this then feeds into new product development or innovative modifications. And it doesn't end there, because once you then sell that modification and that product, then the customer again is surveyed for feedback, for more input, and then it goes into sales and marketing. How are we going to communicate it? You know, how are we going to justify this? Going out and getting more market data, and then feeds around again. And that's why it's more of a circular flow. Customer-centric organisations are constantly looking externally for information to justify what they do internally, and that's the difference. You know, there is a continuous flow of customer requirements driven by the data that feeds internally into the organisation. Customer centricity have satisfactory products. You know, like all products need to be satisfactory to the customer. You know, whether you're a product centric or whether you're customer centric, but it really does start with with the customer's level of satisfaction, and then going on and trying to improve that even further. I mean, after all, no buyer buys a product that's not satisfied in their product and their needs, but it's really how that product came about. Did it come about from the internal resources and capabilities, or did it come about because of the external resources and capabilities that the company was drawn upon? And that's really the difference between the two. So, you know, furthermore, customer-centric companies, what it does, it's not just ending at the sale. Product-centric companies often have, you know, they enter to sell and then they start all over again. Customer-centric companies are looking to reduce churn. They're looking to continue to build relationships and continue to survey the customer even after the sale. They want to create real kind of loyal customer base, but also real advocates within the business. So that's why they're constantly looking to go out and survey their potential, their existing and their long time customers, just to make sure that they're really satisfying their customers' needs, and if not, excelling their customers' changing needs. And that's the important thing. The companies that I mentioned before, Blockbuster, they weren't surveying their customers' changing needs, and if they were, it wasn't important enough to them because they weren't at the core of the business. A customer-centric company is constantly surveying and looking at the return on investment and backing up what they survey through their customers with other market data. So they're constantly looking externally. And then the reason why they have the business is in order to serve the customer's needs, not in order to produce a product. So I really want to give you kind of 4 key strategies, 4 key areas you need to look at in order to move from a product-centric business model to a customer-centric business model. So if you are, as many businesses are, product-centric, then you actually need a process in order to move from one to the other. And when I talk to you about this, you'll really kind of like get it, that there is a process that you can move through the organization, and it's it's never a one size fits all, and it's not that it's an instant. It's really iterative. What you do, very much like the customer centric flow that I talked about, you continue to marginally change all of the functions within your organization, and you improve on that. So you actually apply the same process internally to your organization in order to move it away from being product centric more to being customer centric. And so I'll explain what these 4 areas are. So the first thing that you need to be aware of is really focusing your efforts, because you can't be all things to all people. And so it's really about understanding your existing customer base and who are your most valued customers. I've talked about this quite a lot, about really understanding your most valued customers. And it could be by volume, by value, by strategic importance, whatever that may be, however you assess it, is really looking at those. And then looking at who are your other ideal customer groups, your potential, your prospective customers. So they're the ones that you really need to hold core to your business, because that's really who you're innovating for, those people, your ideal, your best customers. Then you need to look at the focus internally, like who are your influencers, the people with credibility, the leaders, the decision makers. Who are those people that you want as sponsors to this process of becoming customer centric, or the process of modifying a product so that it's less internally focused, more externally focused? Who might that be? So the first thing is really focus your efforts. Focus your efforts on the ideal potential and existing customers, and really understanding their needs, and focus your efforts on the people that can help you to influence within the organization. This is your sponsors to the organization. So that's the first thing you need to be really aware of. Then the second thing is about engaging your team of collaborators. So this group of people, how are you going to engage them? How are you going to get feedback from the potential or the existing customers? How are you going to keep those sponsors on board? Really, it's about understanding, about turning those customers into real supporters, even sponsors, just like the internal leaders and sponsors. So it's about how you're going to do that, how you're going to tip the scale. So there's various strategies to actually do that, but it's being aware that you're going to have to engage these people. You're going to have to feed back information. You're going to have to create some kind of system and process to gather their inputs and make sure that they continue to feed back. So however you design that process, that's what you need to think about. So the third area is really to make it real. This is about focusing your efforts where they're going to be most optimal and create the most value for your business. It's really about making it real, and that is making it real is really show me the money. It's really about understanding how you're going to communicate the feedback or the responses that you're getting, never overestimating the responses and results. How are you going to feed that back? How are you going to make it real? How are you going to share it throughout the organisation so that you're getting more people on board, so that you're building a real campaign? So it's about understanding that process. So you've already engaged, your potential existing customers. You've put some process together in order to get their feedback on a new modification or a new product. But you want to share the results throughout the organisation. You want to influence more people that they think this is a really great idea. And the thing that, decision makers want to know, they want to know the return on investment. They want to know that the customer's pain point is really closely aligned to the P&L. What are the profits and what's the return on investments if we were to invest in this? So you really need to make it real. So not only about sharing, whether that's through video conferencing, testimonials, customer interviews, whatever that may be, sharing the results, the real results, not the exaggerated results. How are you going to share it and how are you going to measure it? That's about making it real. And then the fourth area is really the ongoing improvement process. And now you've actually got this way of developing new products or modifying products within your organisation. You've got a way of doing that. You want to continue this great work. So you need to then build a continuous process of gathering data, of embracing customer feedback, of bringing them into the organisation so they have a seat at the table to help with you to justify and measure the results from their responses. What is the process you're going to use to do this continually? And this is how you move the organisation away from product focus to more customer focus, by having a continuous improvement process in place that allows you to do that. So they're really the kind of four key areas. It's really about being clear about your focus. Focus on where you have the maximum effort and really understanding what that is. And then it's about engaging your team of collaborators. It's really about making it real. This is kind of show me the money, and then it's about the ongoing process of improvement to make sure that you're keeping that alive. Your product development team has to continually use customers in order to develop the product. So this is all about the continuous improvement. How are you going to put that process together? And let me give you an example of Lego that does this really, really well. Lego have their membership site, or membership community rather, where they set competitions for their community, and they do this on a continuous basis. So in these competitions, they're really engaged community will design or name the products, and what happens is they, through this community and this process, anything that goes to market, the creator, whoever that may be, will be named on all of the packaging and will get a percentage of the revenue. So it really does engage and reward their community, their loyal advocate and supporters for their efforts, and also it keeps the feedback, the direct link to their supporters and their community. So it works really, really well for them, and it really does engage their advocates and supporters. Made.com does a very similar thing through Made Labs, Made Talent Labs, I think it's called, Made Talent Labs. Made.com is a furniture company, and so they've got quite a really interesting model, but in order to make sure that they're bringing on new innovative designers, they have the Made Talent Labs to do that. So it's similar to Lego. So there's lots of ways for you to engage your customers. I've seen things on Facebook as well where I think it was a balloon company was asking their Facebook fans and followers to actually design their products, and they got rewarded for it, and they got lots of accolades and things like that. So there's really simple things that you can do. So it doesn't matter whether you're a large or small business. It's really about having the motivation, the inspiration, the impetus, and then, you know, like through these processes of iteration, you can slowly move your business model away from being product centric, more towards being customer centric, by using online platforms in order to do that, and then really building a community of advocates and supporters, and inviting them into your organization, inviting them in through competitions, and really kind of like listening out to their feedback, and continually surveying people that have purchased your products. So there are ways of doing it, but you just really need to have the impetus and motivation and inspiration to actually do it. And you can see, if you don't do it, the companies that have failed because of that. So, you know, becoming customer centric and moving your product to be really focused on your customers' wants and needs, and having your customers at the table in your business is absolutely key to all of this. You know, it's really about being an inspired organization. You're inspired by your customers, and really about understanding who your customers are and what their needs are. I talk about this so much, but you know, I really want to give you the strategies that you can actually do that in order to really move your business forward and to remain relevant, not only now but into the future. I don't want you to be a Blockbuster. You know, I don't want you to be a Clinton Cards. I don't want you to be, you know, a company that no longer exists. You know, you can think of lots of companies in your childhood that just do not exist anymore. I want you to continue to grow and be relevant to your customers. So it's really about understanding who is your specific customer, what are their needs, and then designing your products and services around that specific need, that specific problem, and really making sure that you continue to engage your community of loyal customers and advocates. And you know, you will then have a very successful business going forward into the future. You cannot win without your customers. So bring your customers into your organisation and make them your winners. I hope you've enjoyed what I've talked about today. I always post a blog on Monday with a lot of this information, and also put this on YouTube. So make sure you share the love. I would absolutely love it if you share this recorded Facebook Live with in your groups. You might have groups that have entrepreneurs that really need to hear about ways of making sure that they build relationships and keep their customers coming back to them for more. So I'd love to get your feedback, so make sure that you put your comments below, and I always go in and check for comments and answer any questions you may have. Make sure you like my business page, Facebook business page, the problemsolver.jbg, and I look forward to seeing you next week on my Wednesday Wisdom, where I'll be talking about, what am I talking about next week? Well, it will be around the theme of customer centricity, so I'll be talking more about that. All right, you take care. Have a lovely Wednesday.